The U.S. officially declares part of the Syrian rebels a terrorist organization as the civil war rages on. We'll have that and more right here, right now on the News Hub. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Simon Constable. Wall Street Journal reporter Jay Solomon joins us now from our bureau in Washington, D.C. Jay, this is the Jabhat al-Nusra terrorist organization, right? Jay? Jay is not hearing me, but we're going to get Jay in a moment. It's the Jay. Okay. It's the Jabhat al-Nusra terrorist organization. That's what the U.S. is saying. That organization is a terrorist organization.
That is correct. They're basically say they're linked with Al Qaeda, and the context of why they're doing this is the administration is increasingly trying to have a larger role in sort of shaping the opposition, particularly as Mr. Assad seems to be losing more ground. And there's increased concerns that militant groups are going to, if not take power, at least have a major role in whatever government would replace President Assad in Damascus, which is why they're taking this move against Jabhat al-Nusra to try to sort of signal to the Arabs, the Saudis, the Qataris that the U.S. does not want to see militant Islamists in any shape or form as part of a new government that takes power or actually has a lot of influence.
Now, at the same time, the U.S. has no interest really, nor does anyone who's got a humanitarian bent in seeing this civil war continue. You've got tens of thousands of people dead and hundreds of thousands of refugees. Right, there's a problem here, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. They are in a bit of a pickle in the sense that a lot of people who've studied the insurgency, the rebel movement, says some of these militant groups are sort of the most aggressive. They've been using suicide attacks, which is reprehensible, but it also seems to have had an impact, and they are in some ways, more ideological. So if you try to weaken these kind of Islamist elements, like you mentioned, are you going to drag out the war? Are you going to drive up the death toll? And the dynamic is not dissimilar to the U.S. support of the Mujahideen during the Afghan war in the 80s. We actually did support some of the more radical groups because they did fight the Soviets in a much more aggressive manner. But the downside was, that was sort of the formation of Al Qaeda in a lot of ways came from the groups that fought in the Afghan war that got our money and then turned on us afterwards. So it's a real dilemma.
And as part of this dilemma, Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, is trying to sort this out by meeting soon with the Friends of Syria, right?
Yeah, Secretary Clinton is going to Marrakesh tomorrow to take part in the Friends of Syria meeting. This is kind of the first gathering of really high-level diplomats, Secretary of State levels, to support a new group that was formed last month. The U.S. did support kind of more of an expatriate group that didn't seem to have much influence on the ground. So this new body is formed, and Secretary Clinton and other foreign ministers are going to meet in Morocco to try to formalize. They're really trying to get the civilian wing and the military wings to fuse and to becoming a more unified front against Assad as the clock seems to be ticking against him.
Now, Jay, the U.S. has been involved in war for the last decade, notably in Afghanistan and Iraq at different times. What is the appetite within the Beltway for U.S. involvement, direct involvement in Syria? Is it strong? Are we likely to be there, or is it weak and there'll be resistance?
The sense you get from the White House and the Pentagon is there is still a real resistance to get sucked into a third, fourth Middle East war in the last decade. And the Syrian regime, if you get involved there, the real fear is, Iran and Hezbollah and some of the real backers of the Assad regime could get dragged in, and you could have a really nasty and prolonged conflict. I think President Obama's taken a really strong stance in the last week amid signs that President Assad might use chemical weapons against the opposition. Pentagon's seeing from satellites the movement of sarin gas. They don't know for sure that they're going to use it, but the fact that it's being moved around is getting people really nervous. And President Obama has basically drawn a red line on the use of chemical weapons but you still don't get a sense here that that they'd still really be, the White House would still really be in a dilemma of what to do if Assad did something as radical as using chemical weapons.
Well, let's hope we don't have to find at least that part of it out. Thank you very much, Jay Solomon with the Wall Street Journal. More on that story on WSJ.com.